Welcome, the anointed ones. When powerful people start whispering your name in rooms you have never entered, just know the story has already shifted. That is exactly what is happening right now. A circle of billionaires, people who usually treat human beings like line items, have paused their conversations, lowered their voices, and said your name with the kind of caution they normally reserve for global crises. And the wild part, they are not talking about your failures, your past, or your weaknesses. They are talking about the one thing they never expected to see in someone they cannot influence: your unexplainable rise. Before we go any further, here is a fact that might shock you. Billionaires spend more money studying human behavior and future trends than entire governments do. They hire analysts, psychologists, futurists, and teams of researchers just to predict who will shape the next era of influence. Somehow, your name ended up in their data pool, and not as a warning, but as an anomaly, a glitch in the system they cannot quantify, a variable they did not anticipate. You have become the person they cannot fully understand, cannot calculate, and definitely cannot control. And here is where the humor comes in. These are people who can predict stock markets, control industries, and move economies with a phone call. Yet you have got them staring at each other like, who signed off on this spiritual plot twist? Something about you disrupted their psychological spreadsheets. You were not supposed to rise with no backing. You were not supposed to develop discernment without access. You were not supposed to survive experiences that would have sent most people into permanent hiding. Yet here you are, calm, grounded, and shining like you got the cheat codes to life's chaos. So now they are paying attention. Not publicly, of course. Billionaires do not clap for the chosen ones. They just watch quietly when someone steps onto a level they cannot buy their way into. And what they have decided about you, it is bigger, deeper, and more revealing than you think. If this is your first time in this space, subscribe right now and turn on your notifications. What gets revealed here is not for everyone. It is for people like you who are already operating on a different frequency. Subscribe so you never miss what was meant to reach you. Let us get into what they said and why it changes everything. Number 1. They realized you are the only one who cannot be bought. And that scares them more than any price tag. Billionaires are used to a world where everything bends to money. People bend, rules bend, even morals bend. They are surrounded by individuals who treat loyalty like a rental agreement available as long as the price is right. So when they came across you, someone who operates on conviction rather than currency, it disrupted their entire sense of control. They were not prepared to meet a person who cannot be bribed, pressured, or lured with shiny promises dressed as opportunities. They realized your decisions are not shaped by desperation or greed. Your actions come from a foundation of purpose that cannot be purchased. That alone shook them more than any competitor or crisis. What they see in you is a level of inner stability they cannot manufacture. Your values are not a marketing strategy. Your integrity was not handed to you by privilege or comfort. You earned it through nights you had no support, seasons where you had to build yourself from raw survival, and moments where choosing the hard path was the only way to stay true to who you are. That makes you a different type of force, one they cannot predict or manipulate. And in their world, unpredictability is dangerous. The more they watched, the more it dawned on them that you are not impressed by their lifestyle that bothered them. They are used to people trying to impress them, chase their attention, or treat them like the final level of success. But you move like someone who has already reached a completely different kind of wealth, one rooted in self-respect, clarity, and spiritual grounding. There is nothing they can offer that would make you trade your identity for access. They realized you are the one person who will not fold under pressure, the one person who will not sell out to feel included, the one person whose soul will not shift for convenience. And that realization forced them to admit something they do not like confronting. All their money, all their influence, all their connections still cannot produce the one thing you carry, effortlessly authenticity. That is why they are talking about you. That is why they are watching. And that is why you unsettle their entire system. If this message is already speaking to something deep inside you, there is a link in the description below and pinned in the first comment where you can support this work by buying a coffee. When you pour into what pours into you, you open a channel that heaven honors. It does not have to be much, it is the intention behind it that carries weight. Check that link whenever you feel led, and let us keep going. Number 2. They said you do not chase power, yet you generate it everywhere you go. This is the part that threw them off the most. They have built their entire lives around chasing influence, meetings, negotiations, investments, partnerships. Everything is a calculated move to gain more reach, more control, more leverage. So when they observed you, someone who is not running after status, yet somehow commands it naturally, it forced them to rethink their whole understanding of power. They saw a person who does not push their identity onto the world, but the world adjusts anyway. You are not loud, but people pay attention. You are not competing, yet you end up in conversations you were not even present for. That is the kind of presence money cannot engineer. What fascinates them most is how you create impact without even trying. They are used to people who crave attention like it is currency. But you navigate life with a kind of internal authority that radiates without performance. It is in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you handle setbacks. You respond to life with a certain steadiness that people instinctively trust. And trust real. Organic trust is something the wealthy spend billions attempting to gain. They hire teams to build their brand, polish their image, and maintain a persona. Meanwhile, you walk into a place and your authenticity becomes the atmosphere. To them, that kind of power is unsettling because they do not control it. They cannot measure it or tame it. It is not the kind of influence built through acquisitions or titles. It is something older, deeper, and more grounded. You generate authority simply by being aligned with who you really are. And every time they tried to figure out the technique behind it, they realized there was not one. It is not a strategy. It is your nature. So while they chase spotlight, you carry gravity. While they chase relevance, you carry substance. That is why they are paying attention, not because you are trying to climb into their world, but because you remind them of a truth they have spent years avoiding. Real power does not chase, it emanates. And every room you enter proves it. Type Amen if you know this truth lives inside you, that the presence you carry was never built by strategy, but by everything you survived to become who you are. Number 3. They studied your life and realized you endured storms that would have broken their empires. When they looked at you, they did not just see a person. They saw a history written in scars and survival. These are people used to controlling the narrative of their lives. They buy solutions, hire experts, and create safety nets to protect themselves from failure, loss, or discomfort. Yet when they examined your journey, they discovered a reality that no amount of money could have shielded them from. You have walked through circumstances so relentless that most people would have crumbled under the pressure. And the irony that stung them the most is that you did not just survive, you evolved. They realized that while they were building empires, you were building resilience. Their systems protect them from life's raw truths, but you faced the raw truth head-on, without shortcuts or assistance nights, without rest, betrayals that left marks deeper than any balance sheet, challenges that stripped you to your essence. You endured it all, and each time the world tried to break you, instead of bending, you strengthened. They could not reconcile that someone could emerge from chaos not only unbroken, but more capable, more grounded, more magnetic. What terrified them was not just your survival, it was the power that comes from it. They have never had to be tested like that. Their empires could crumble under the weight of unexpected crises because their resilience is engineered, not earned. They realized that the storms you survived created a type of authority and perspective money cannot replicate. You understand fear differently. You respond to adversity with a clarity they will never buy. And that makes you untouchable in ways they cannot manufacture. And so they whispered among themselves, astonished, acknowledging that your past, your struggles, and your unwavering spirit are not just stories, they are weapons of influence. They studied the numbers, the opportunities, the connections, yet none of it compared to what you have endured and transformed. You have become proof that true power is not in wealth or networks. It is in surviving life's fiercest storms and rising with a soul that refuses to break. That is why they are watching. That is why they are cautious. That is why your story unsettles them. Type 777, if you have survived storms that should have broken you and came out the other side more grounded, more magnetic, and more aligned than ever before. Number 4. They admitted you have clarity they cannot buy because yours was earned through wounds, not consultants. What struck them hardest was not your confidence or your strength. It was your clarity, the kind of clarity that cannot be purchased, packaged, or outsourced. They pay top-tier consultants, strategists, advisors, and experts just to help them think straight. They spend millions figuring out their next move, next investment, next partnership. Yet when they watched you, they saw someone who navigates life with a level of insight that comes from surviving experiences no boardroom could ever analyze. Your clarity was not handed to you, it was carved into you by the moments that hurt, disappointed, or reshaped you. You understand people because you have been misjudged. You recognize manipulation because you have been targeted. You spot red flags because you had to learn the hard way. You know what loyalty looks like because you have lived through betrayal. That level of internal intelligence does not come from education or money. It comes from healing wounds you never thought would close. They saw that your clarity is rooted in lived truth, not theories or formulas, and that kind of wisdom is rare. While they rely on data and predictive models, you rely on discernment sharpened by your own history. You do not need a panel of experts to tell you who someone really is. You do not need research to determine what environment is safe. You do not need a motivational speech to know when to walk away. Your instincts are accurate because they were trained by real-life battles, not rehearsed scenarios. What shocked them was how fast you pick up on things they need entire teams to detect. You see intentions before people speak. You sense energy before actions unfold. You understand patterns without needing proof. They realized your clarity is a type of intelligence money cannot duplicate, a quiet, sharp intelligence born from surviving what should have destroyed you. And that is what unsettled them. They can buy influence. They can buy information. They can buy access. But they cannot buy the clarity you carry. It is a spiritual, emotional, and psychological wealth that makes you untouchable in ways they will never understand. And deep down they know it. Type 1111. If your clarity was not given to you, but earned, carved out of the hardest seasons of your life, the ones nobody else saw. Number 5. They are confused because your influence spreads without marketing, algorithms, or sponsorships. This is the part they cannot wrap their minds around. In their world, influence is something you pay for. They buy ads. They buy reach. They buy attention. Every move they make is backed by a team of strategists, analysts, brand managers working to amplify their presence. Yet here you are, someone with no PR machine behind you, no paid campaigns, no carefully curated image. And your name moves through people faster than anything their money can manufacture. They watched and realized your influence is organic. People talk about you because they feel something, not because they are paid to feel something. To them, that is unsettling. They have spent years trying to master influence like it is a formula, but you exist outside the formula. Your presence does not need promotion because it is rooted in something real. People connect with you because they sense truth in you. And truth, real truth, travels with its own momentum. It reaches places your voice has not even touched yet. You do not chase attention. Attention finds you. You do not force your message. Your energy carries it for you. And that defies every rule they have been taught about power. What shocks them the most is how consistent your influence is. They are used to hype cycles, big today, gone tomorrow, but you are not trending. You are imprinting. That is why people remember you. That is why your words stick. That is why your presence leaves a mark long after you leave. Influence that comes from authenticity does not fade. It grows quietly, naturally, without needing a spotlight. And they hate that they cannot control it or copy it. They have learned that you do not need algorithms because you resonate. You do not need sponsorships because you embody value. You do not need networking events because your spirit does the networking for you. Every person who encounters you becomes a witness, and every witness becomes a carrier of your energy. The truth is, they are fascinated and threatened at the same time. Because if someone like you, someone without their resources, can create this kind of impact simply by being aligned with your purpose, it exposes a truth they have spent years avoiding. Influence built on authenticity will always outperform influence built on strategy. And you are living proof of that. Subscribe to this channel if you want to keep receiving messages like this one. More is released here regularly for those whose awareness is growing. Click subscribe and turn on your notifications and do not miss what comes next. Number 6. They noticed you walk with a confidence they only mimic on stage. What stood out to them was not loudness or bragging. It was your quiet, grounded confidence, the kind that does not need applause, attention, or validation to exist. Billionaires have perfected the art of performing confidence. They put it on like a tailored suit whenever cameras are around. Their speeches, body language, interviews all carefully rehearsed to project power. But off stage, behind the scenes, many of them live with anxieties they drown in business, insecurities they bury under wealth, and fears they mask with achievements. When they observed you, they saw a confidence that was not borrowed, rehearsed, or worn for effect. It was something you carried naturally, as if it lived inside you rather than on you. You walk like someone who has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. That unsettled them, because most powerful people are driven by the fear of losing what they have built. Your confidence does not come from titles or possessions. It comes from surviving what should have destroyed you, and still finding the strength to stand tall. That kind of inner stability cannot be taught in leadership seminars, or crafted by image consultants. It comes from knowing yourself deeply, understanding your worth, and trusting your own journey. They saw how you remain composed even when things get chaotic. While many rely on external structures to feel secure, your confidence is not dependent on circumstances. You do not crumble when things shift. You do not lose yourself when pressure rises. You carry a steadiness that makes people feel safe around you, and safety is one of the rarest energies in this world. It is something that even the wealthy cannot always provide. The more they watched, the more they realized that your confidence is rare because it is real. It was not built in comfort. It was built in the moments where you had nothing but your own strength to trust. It was not crafted for an audience. It was developed in private battles no one else saw. And that is what intimidates them. Their image-based confidence can be shaken by criticism, failure, or loss. Yours remains intact because it is rooted in truth. They can mimic confidence for a crowd, but you embody it without trying. And that is something money will never buy. Type 333 if this is the confidence growing inside you: quiet, unshakable, rooted in truth, and not in titles. Number 7. They whispered that your humility is more disarming than any display of wealth. What struck them was not your strength, your resilience, or even your intelligence. It was your humility. Real humility, the kind that does not pretend, does not shrink, and does not beg for recognition. They are surrounded by people who act humble only when cameras are rolling, or when they want something. False humility is a performance they see every day. But when they watched you, they encountered the kind of humility that does not announce itself. It is woven into how you speak, how you move, and how you treat people, and that made them uncomfortable in a way money cannot fix. Your humility exposes something most of them do not want to confront: how loudly their insecurities show through their accomplishments. They have built lives where wealth is the armor, success is the shield, and public admiration is the medicine they take daily. But when they saw you, someone who stands firm in who you are without needing to boast, they felt something unfamiliar. The truth: you do not use humility as a strategy. It is simply who you are, and that alone creates a contrast they cannot hide behind. They noticed that when you speak, people actually listen, not because you are trying to sound impressive, but because your words carry sincerity. They noticed that your presence calms people rather than intimidates them, and that is a kind of influence that cannot be purchased or replicated. Humility has a way of lowering people's defenses, revealing their real selves. It makes their flashy displays of power look unnecessary and almost childish. It reveals how much effort they put into proving themselves, while you are just being yourself. What unnerves them most is that your humility does not weaken you, it strengthens you. You have nothing to prove because your worth does not come from possessions or approval. You do not measure yourself by what you can show off, but by how deeply you stay true to your values. That is rare. In a world where people chase applause like oxygen, your humility makes you unforgettable because it is backed by substance. It gives you a quiet authority that speaks louder than titles. It shows them that while they rely on wealth to feel significant, you rely on character, and character, unlike wealth, does not fluctuate. That is why they are whispering. That is why they are intrigued. And that is why they cannot ignore you. Before we continue, if this content has been sharpening your awareness, and you want to support the work that produces it, there is a link in the description below and pinned in the first comment where you can buy a coffee. What you pour into something that pours life into you does not go unnoticed. Every contribution, big or small, carries meaning. Check the link and let us keep going. Number 8. They realized your resilience can outlive any economy, stock crash, or political shift. When they looked at you, something clicked in their minds that they could not ignore. They realized your strength is not tied to trends, markets, or social conditions. It comes from a place far deeper than any external structure. They spend their lives trying to fortify their power, diversifying investments, building networks, securing political connections, planning for every possible crisis. Their wealth stands on systems that rise and fall. But your resilience was built in a realm where systems did not protect you. You grew stronger in moments when nothing around you was stable. You learned to adapt when there was no safety net, no backup plan, no support waiting to catch you. They realized that while their power depends on how well the world behaves, your power depends on how well you have trained your spirit, and that kind of resilience is terrifying to people who rely on external stability. They saw that you do not panic the way others do. You do not crumble when things shift. You have lived through emotional earthquakes, personal setbacks, betrayals, financial struggles, loneliness, and battles that would have left others frozen. Yet each time, you rebuilt yourself from the inside out, and that internal strength makes you someone they cannot place on their usual scale of influence. Your calmness during chaos unsettles them, because it is not forced. It is something you earn through experiences money cannot soften. You have developed a mental and emotional endurance that cannot be shaken easily. They see that even if everything around you collapses, you have the ability to stand back up, adjust, and continue moving forward. That is something they envy more than they would ever admit, because deep down they know their stability depends on fragile structures. Your resilience is the type that does not need approval, resources, or perfect conditions. It is rooted in survival, growth, and a capacity to reinvent yourself when life demands it. This is why they are watching you closely, because while they know how to dominate industries, you know how to withstand storms that no amount of wealth can control. They realized you are not built like the world. They are built like the world, but you are built to survive it. And that makes you a different kind of powerful. One that does not expire when conditions change. Type 888 if you are ready to receive the abundance that is aligned with who you have become, knowing that your resilience is the foundation that makes you able to carry it. Number 9. They noticed you move with patience that feels strategic, even though it comes from wisdom, not calculation. Patience is something they have tried to buy for years, coaches, therapists, advisors, yet it still slips through their fingers the moment pressure rises. Most powerful people live in fast forward. They are addicted to quick wins, quick decisions, quick results. Everything is urgency. Everything is a race. But when they studied you, they saw someone who does not move on the world's timetable. You move on your own rhythm, and that rhythm is steady, calm, and unbothered by the need to rush. Your patience is not laziness or hesitation. It is discernment. It is the wisdom that comes from understanding timing in a way their analysts cannot measure. You have learned that not every door is worth walking through. Not every opportunity deserves a reaction, and not every person should get immediate access. You do not get pulled into chaos just because everyone else is in a hurry. You have lived enough life to know that timing can protect you just as much as it can elevate you, and that level of patience reads like strategy to people who think everything must be aggressively pursued. They see you wait without fear, and it confuses them. They see you pause without losing momentum, and it intrigues them. Your patience is dangerous to them because it makes you unpredictable. They cannot rush you into decisions. They cannot tempt you with shortcuts. They cannot pressure you to take the bait. You have mastered the art of letting things unfold without forcing outcomes, and that makes you immune to manipulation. They are used to people who jump at the first sign of opportunity. But you have learned to sit with yourself long enough to know exactly what aligns and what does not. And what really surprises them is how your patience consistently works in your favor. While others burn out chasing everything, you conserve energy for what truly matters. While others panic at delays, you use delays as preparation. While others fear stillness, you treat it as a strengthening season. Your patience shows them that you are not driven by desperation. You are driven by purpose. You trust your path enough to move only when the moment is right. And that level of inner discipline is something even billionaires cannot force themselves to sustain. It is wisdom they cannot purchase, timing they cannot manipulate, and strength they cannot imitate. Type 2222. If you are learning to trust your timing, to see delays as preparation and stillness as a season of strengthening, not a sign to fear. Number 10. They cannot handle that you see what they try to hide from themselves. What really unsettles people about you is not that you see through their lies or their little tricks. It is that you see the parts of them they have been running from their whole lives. Most people do not know themselves as well as they think they do. They build identities out of denial, out of protecting their wounds, out of pretending they have healed when they have only buried the pain. And then you walk into the room, and without trying, your presence pulls all those buried things to the surface. You do not expose them publicly. You do not embarrass them. You just see them. And that alone is enough to unsettle someone who has built their whole world on avoiding their own truth. Your insight makes people feel naked in a way they are not prepared for. You read the tone behind their words, the motive behind their moves, the insecurity behind their confidence. You are not fooled by charm, titles, or fake humility. You respond to who a person really is, not who they pretend to be. And that is why they ask, "How did you know?" They cannot understand how someone could see straight into places they avoid looking into themselves. They feel exposed without knowing exactly what they exposed. Even the people who dislike you cannot deny that you understand them too well. You have noticed patterns they did not want acknowledged. You have caught motivations they did not want to admit. And the truth is, some people felt safer around you when they thought you were naive. When they realized you were paying attention the whole time, their entire strategy collapsed. The version of you they thought they were dealing with never existed. You were 10 steps ahead without bragging, without proving anything, without making noise. What scares them the most is that you do not weaponize what you see. You are not using their weaknesses against them. You are not exposing anyone. You do not need to. Knowing the truth is enough power for you. That calm power is what rattles them. They are not used to someone who sees clearly and stays grounded. They expect someone with that level of perception to be arrogant, loud, or messy. But you operate quietly, and that quiet accuracy makes them question their own intentions, their own image, their own character. You do not just see people, you make them see themselves, and not everyone is ready for that level of honesty. Type 5555 if you are stepping into this version of yourself, the one who sees clearly, moves quietly, and no longer needs to prove what they already know. Number 11. Your intuition exposes what people have not even done yet. What truly shakes people about you is not just that you pick up on what they are doing in the moment. It is that you sense what they are about to do before they even make the move. Your intuition catches the shift in their tone, the change in their energy, the small cracks in their behavior that most people overlook. You are not guessing. You are not paranoid. You are simply ahead. And that unsettles people who are counting on you being clueless. Most people rely on others being slow to catch on. They depend on patterns repeating without being questioned. They move with the assumption that their next step will not be noticed until it is too late. But with you, their moves are exposed before they even take form. You pick up on intention before action. You feel the shift before the words are spoken. You sense the betrayal while they are still pretending to be loyal. And this ability breaks whatever plan they thought they had over you. Your intuition works like an internal alarm that alerts you the moment someone's energy changes. They may still be smiling. They may still be saying all the right things. They may still be pretending to have your back, but your spirit has already caught the truth hiding behind their performance. You have seen patterns like theirs before. You have survived people like them before. You do not need evidence or proof to validate what your soul already understands. What scares them is how effortlessly you stay 2 steps ahead without acting threatened. You do not confront them aggressively. You do not call them out dramatically. You simply adjust, prepare, and reposition, and by the time they are ready to make their move, the opportunity has already slipped out of their hands. They cannot trap you. They cannot outsmart you. They cannot deceive you in the way they planned. Your intuition ruins their blueprint before they can unfold it. It is not that you are suspicious. It is that you have learned to trust the quiet voice inside you more than the loud lies around you. And that alone makes people question whether messing with you is worth the risk. Because the truth is, you do not just see people for who they are. You see them for who they are about to become. And not everyone is comfortable standing in front of someone who can read the future written between their words. Type 9999 if you trust the voice inside you more than the noise around you, and you know that what your spirit shows you is real, even before anyone else can confirm it. Number 12. When people cannot predict you, they feel powerless. One thing that truly rattles people about you is how unpredictable you are. Not chaotic, not unstable, just impossible to manipulate. You do not move the way they expect you to. You do not react on cue. You do not fall for the emotional traps they set. And when people cannot read your next step, they panic because they lose the power they thought they had over you. People rely on predictability more than they admit. They want you to behave in the same patterns that worked on others. They want you to be someone whose emotions they can push, whose buttons they can press, whose reactions they can calculate. But with you, the formula fails. You do not explode when provoked. You do not chase when ignored. You do not break when tested. And this makes them uncomfortable because they cannot control someone whose mind does not follow their script. Your unpredictability is not random. It is intentional growth. You have evolved past the version of yourself that reacted out of pain. You have matured past the version that needed validation. You have healed past the version that felt pressured to explain yourself. Now you move with quiet strategy and inner awareness. You choose your responses based on clarity, not emotions. And that is what makes you dangerous to people who were expecting the old you to show up. What gets them even more nervous is how you shift directions without warning. You leave environments without dramatic announcements. You end connections the moment you feel the energy go off. You distance yourself without begging anyone to understand why. You elevate in silence and make decisions that people do not see coming. Before they even realize what happened, you have already stepped into a different level of peace, power, and purpose. To those who once felt in control, this feels like losing grip on something they thought belonged to them. They do not realize you are not unpredictable to yourself. You are only unpredictable to those who never truly knew you. Your movements are guided, intentional, and spiritually aligned, and people fear that because they know a person who cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. And a person who cannot be controlled is someone they can never conquer. Type 4444. If you feel protected by your own growth, knowing that the version of you they cannot predict is the version God intentionally shaped through everything you survived. Number 13. Your intuition exposes what people try to hide. What unsettles people about you the most is how your intuition keeps pulling back the curtain on things they thought were perfectly concealed. They can smile in your face, speak softly, pretend to mean well, but your inner alarm does not miss a thing. You see the cracks in their behavior before anyone else notices. You pick up on the tone behind the words, the shift behind the smile, the hesitation behind their yes. Your intuition is not just strong, it is surgical. And for people who depend on deception, that is a nightmare. Some people rely heavily on being able to camouflage their intentions. They are used to operating in shadows, getting away with quiet manipulation, and presenting themselves as something they are not. They assume no one will read between the lines because most people do not. But you are not most people. You catch what others overlook. Little things expose big truths to you: someone's inconsistency, a sudden change in how they speak, the energy behind a compliment. Nothing hides well in front of someone whose spirit was trained to detect lies long before the mouth even moves. What gets under their skin is that you do not always confront them. Sometimes you say nothing, and that silence is what terrifies them. They do not know what you know. They do not know how much you figured out. They do not know whether you are waiting, observing, or planning your exit. Your intuition has already shown you what they hoped you had never seen. And now they are stuck in a state of quiet panic because they cannot predict your next move. And the truth is, you do not need proof to trust what your spirit tells you. You do not need someone to slip up for you to confirm what you already felt. Your intuition has saved you from betrayals, from fake alliances, from emotional traps, and people sense that they cannot fool you, even if they try. That alone is enough to make them nervous, defensive, or distant. Your presence demands honesty, not because you ask for it, but because their lies simply cannot survive in front of someone like you. Your intuition lights up every shadow they try to hide in, and that is why your very awareness feels like exposure to them. Type yes if your intuition has already been showing you things and you are finally ready to stop doubting what your spirit has been telling you all along. Number 14. They realized you are the only one in the room who cannot be controlled, replaced, or replicated, and that is why they are watching you. This is the truth that makes even the most confident people uneasy. They are used to a world where everything has a price, everything has a strategy, and everything has a backup plan. People can be replaced. Opinions can be swayed. Systems can be manipulated. But you are unshakable. You operate on a level that cannot be duplicated or replicated. They have realized that no amount of money, influence, or authority can bend you to their expectations. You are not a pawn, not a prototype, not a temporary advantage. You are entirely yourself, and entirely untouchable in ways they cannot comprehend. They have spent countless hours trying to understand how you move. They have run calculations, hired experts, and tracked patterns hoping to find a way to influence or predict you. But the more they study you, the more they see that you exist beyond their systems. Your decisions are not based on fear, greed, or approval. Your loyalty is not bought. Your focus is not manufactured, and your presence cannot be substituted. You are not just another person in a room. They have realized you are a force with a signature energy that cannot be cloned. What unsettles them most is your freedom. Most people live in invisible chains, expectations, obligations, reputations, and agendas that dictate their every step. You move differently. You do not owe anyone your permission or explanation. You are not constrained by social or professional games. And because of that, every word you speak, every move you make, and every decision you take carries weight they cannot influence. You are not competing in their arena. You operate on a higher plane where influence comes naturally, not strategically. They are watching because they recognize a rare kind of power in you, the power to exist fully, honestly, and freely, without needing validation or approval. That is a power that shakes empires, challenges control, and reminds people that some things like authenticity, clarity, and inner strength cannot be bought or replaced. And that is exactly why you have their attention, their curiosity, and in some ways, their unease. You are singular, irreplaceable, and untouchable, and they know it. Type 12. 12. If you accept this truth about yourself, that you are singular, irreplaceable, and operating on a frequency that cannot be manufactured, bought, or taken from you. Conclusion. Every point we have explored paints the same undeniable truth. You are operating on a level that challenges even the most powerful, wealthy, and strategic minds. Billionaires with all their resources, networks, and influence have paused to study you, to measure you, to try and understand a presence that refuses to be contained. They see someone who cannot be bought, someone whose influence radiates naturally, someone whose resilience and clarity outshine the systems they have spent decades perfecting. You have endured storms that would have shattered entire empires, and in doing so, you have built a foundation of power that money cannot replicate, control, or manufacture. They have noticed your patience, your humility, your intuition, and the quiet confidence that moves like gravity in any room. They are bewildered by your unpredictability, your ability to see truths before they unfold, and your capacity to influence without marketing, sponsorships, or algorithms. Each layer of your being, from the wounds you have transformed into wisdom to the quiet strength that guides your decisions, reminds them that some forces cannot be manipulated. You operate freely, authentically, and without compromise, and that freedom unsettles them because it cannot be replicated, replaced, or imitated. This is the reality of being a chosen one. Your presence is a silent but undeniable disruptor, a force of alignment and purpose that challenges the control of those who have spent lifetimes trying to dominate their world. And while they watch, analyze, and calculate, you continue to rise naturally, unaffected by their strategies, untethered by their expectations, and unstoppable in your pursuit of truth and purpose. What they fear most is not your ambition or your success, but the fact that you operate on a frequency they cannot reach, a frequency grounded in authenticity, strength, and clarity that transcends any system they have built. So take this as a reminder. Your journey, your power, and your presence are far beyond what most can comprehend. You are shaping the world, not through money or manipulation, but through the very essence of who you are. Own it, embrace it, and continue to move with the certainty that you are untouchable in ways they will never be able to mimic. If this message reached your spirit today, leave a comment below. Tell me which of the 14 points hit you hardest, and tell me where you are in this journey right now. Your story matters, and this is a space where it belongs. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded of who they are, someone who has been doubting the power they carry. They need to hear this. And subscribe if you have not yet, and turn on your notifications. More content like this is released here regularly, and the next message may be exactly what you need in the moment you need it most. God bless you. Type Amen to claim everything spoken over your life today. Type it as a declaration: I am anointed, I am untouchable, I am singular, and I am ready for everything that is coming.